It was 7:42 on a Tuesday morning. I was elbow deep in a toner box by the supply closet, wrestling with a jammed cartridge, when I heard a voice behind me. "You're Mark, right? Used to run onboarding?" I turned. Kid couldn't have been more than 27. New badge, new shoes, that fresh out of grad school shine. He was smiling like he was asking where the break room was, not cutting into 14 years of my life with 5 words. Not director, not Mr. Lang, just used to. Like I was some ghost hanging around after retirement, doing odd jobs and waiting to be told when lunch was. I gave him a nod, no smile. He chuckled, awkward, like maybe he realized he'd stepped in something. I didn't laugh. I just turned back to the printer, yanked out the old toner, tossed it hard into the recycling bin. 14 years. I built this entire onboarding system from scratch. Created hiring ladders, mentorship plans, compliance training programs. I wrote the damn employee handbook before HR even existed here. Back then, VPs used to knock on my door when they were building out new teams. I was the brain behind the curtain. Now, I was squatting next to a paper shredder like some contractor waiting for his next Task Rabbit gig. Quick note, before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. It didn't happen all at once. Year by year, they chipped away at me. First, it was the younger VPs getting promoted over me, ones I had trained, coached, vouched for. Then came the birthday sheet cakes and thank you plaques with my name spelled wrong. Mark with a C, every time. Around year 9, the meeting invites stopped. Year 10, people stopped saying hi when they passed my office. After that, I was just another piece of the furniture. Same coffee mug, same office chair, same guy nobody noticed. Then Gavin, the new CEO, rolled in. Bright smile, sharp suit, and eyes like a man who thought every conversation should be a TED Talk. Didn't even pretend to know the company history. Just started reimagining legacy systems and evaluating performance efficiencies. I didn't need a crystal ball to see where that was headed. Guys like him don't want veterans. They want mirrors. Someone who reflects the new brand they're trying to sell. Someone younger, louder, smoother on camera. So, yeah, when Toner Boy called me used to, I knew exactly what that meant. 3 days after Toner Boy, Gavin strolled into the all-hands meeting, wearing a watch that probably cost more than my wife's car, and talking like he'd just come from a startup boot camp for divorced dads trying to reinvent themselves. Change is fuel, legacy is drag, velocity is everything. I remember watching him pace the stage, hands moving like he was directing traffic. I leaned over to Daryl and muttered, "This clown's got the attention span of a squirrel on espresso." He laughed. Gavin didn't. He introduced Nate like he was unveiling a new iPhone. Nate Delaney, our new Chief Strategic Officer, Harvard MBA, McKinsey background, big picture thinker, here to elevate us into a new phase. Nate stood up. 29, slick haircut, suit so tight I could see his pulse. No smile, just that confidence that only comes from never being told no. Gavin put a hand on his shoulder like he was presenting the second coming of Jobs. Nate didn't say much, just nodded like he already owned the place. He didn't need to. Everyone in that room knew exactly what his job was. Gut the old, rebrand the scraps. First thing he did, renamed our entire department. We were no longer people operations. Now, we were HPX, Human Potential Experience. I said it sounded like a vitamin supplement. He didn't laugh. Then the slicing started. Jared from L&D shuffled off to logistics with no warning. Sandra got repurposed into brand alignment, whatever the hell that means. Marcus, gone, no notice, no goodbye. His desk was just empty one morning, chair turned to the window like he evaporated. A week later, my office was temporarily reallocated for a task force collaboration space. They gave me a hot desk near the printer. Open floor plan, no drawers, right next to a guy who sniffled nonstop and took Zoom calls on speaker. No meetings, no team check-ins. My calendar looked like a graveyard. I brought it up once to Gavin, real casual in the break room. "Hey, just wanted to check if I missed a new strategy sync invite." He sipped from his double shot whatever, gave me this tight smile. "Oh, Mark, we're streamlining a bit. Nate's aligning direct reports more efficiently. We'll loop you in as needed. As needed." I was the guy who used to define what was needed. Then came the email. Subject line, Updated RO scope. Urgent signature needed. From Nate's assistant. Didn't even come from him directly. Just a link and a little smiley face emoji like this was a birthday card. I opened the PDF. Middle of page 3. A clause that pulled me out of onboarding, stripped me from training oversight, removed me from any policy design or implementation. Folded into strategic operations. No more access to systems I built from scratch. Not even a line about transition period. Just gone. I didn't say a word. Forwarded it to my lawyer. She replied in under an hour. One line. Don't sign. Yet. Didn't even need to ask why. I knew the game they were playing. Death by 1,000 cuts. Make it slow, make it quiet, let the old dog get tired and lie down on his own. But I've never been good at playing dead. They wanted quiet, they were about to get a storm. By Friday, my calendar was officially dead. No team syncs, no ops reviews, not even the quarterly compliance call I used to host. I tried scheduling a check-in with Gavin. System kicked it back. User not accepting external requests. External, like I was emailing from Gmail. Nate, meanwhile, was out here giving walking tours to new hires like a damn realtor. Every time I passed a conference room, he was holding court. This space here is for agile huddles. Over there, you'll see our HPX alignment zones. I was 20 feet away, sitting in a flex chair with a broken wheel, reviewing a training doc. I wasn't even authorized to update anymore. Then came the kicker. Monday morning, I walked in like always. Coffee in hand, same steps down the hallway I'd taken for over a decade. But when I got to the door, my door, it hit me. The nameplate. Mark Lang Advisor, Talent Continuity. No director. No people operations. Not even a title that made sense. Talent Continuity? That's not even a department. It's a ghost role, a placeholder. I went straight to HR. Hey, Sarah, quick question, I said, keeping my tone steady. Any reason my title changed over the weekend? She blinked twice, like her brain had to buffer. Let me check on that and get back to you. Translation. They already signed off on it and hoped I'd just go quietly. I didn't go back to my desk. I went to the stairwell, where nobody listens, where real talk still happens. I stood there long enough to hear voices from 2 floors below. Nate's new team, laughing, planning, spinning the future like it didn't already have a past. Then footsteps. I turned and saw Danielle. Used to be one of my interns. Smart, quiet, didn't play office politics. She glanced around, then stepped in close. Mr. Lang, she whispered, I think you need to see this. She pulled up Slack on her phone. Strategy thread. Still live. Line from Nate. Let's finalize the package and schedule the termination before Q4 kickoff. Don't want legacy noise dragging into planning. Next line, someone else. Have we confirmed post-meeting access shutdown? Would hate for ML to catch wind early. ML, me, Mark Lang. She locked her phone and handed it back. Didn't say anything else. Didn't have to. I stood in that stairwell for a long time. Phone still in my pocket, hand clenched, heart steady. It wasn't even shock anymore. I'd moved past that. This was clarity. They didn't want me phased out. They wanted me erased. But they forgot something. You don't erase a man who built the foundation. You just piss him off enough to pick up the hammer again. And I was done waiting. Monday morning, 8:59 a.m., I got the calendar ping. Subject, Q4 realignment touchpoint. Location, exec conf. I walked in right on time. Nate was already at the head of the table, like he was leading a war room. HR was flanking him. Janine on one side, Devin on the other. Folder, dead center on the table. My name stamped on the cover in bold, like it was an eviction notice. Nate smiled like he'd just been handed a trophy. Thanks for joining, Mark, he said. We'll keep this brief. I sat down, didn't say a word. He opened the folder and slid it across to me. We're sunsetting your position as part of the Q4 streamlining effort. It's not personal. The board's aligning on forward-facing roles, and unfortunately, legacy functions like yours just don't fit the model. Janine nodded like a bobblehead. Devin wouldn't even meet my eyes. Frankly, Nate went on, there have been concerns around training fund usage, vanity certifications, redundant seminars, off-site coaching. A lot of spend with unclear ROI. He leaned back like that was checkmate. Vanity certifications, I repeated, flipping open the folder. Pages of HR boilerplate, legalese, exit clause highlighted in yellow. And what exactly makes them vanity? The fact that you didn't understand them? He didn't answer, just kept that calm, smug expression like he was already rehearsing his LinkedIn post about streamlining legacy weight. I pulled out my pen, the good one, silver barrel, gift from the old CFO when I hit 10 years. I signed every line without hesitation, didn't stall, didn't blink. Then I closed the folder, capped my pen, and looked him dead in the eye. I look forward to seeing you at Monday's board meeting. That cracked him. His head tilted just slightly. What board meeting? The one where your title changes? Janine looked confused. Devin shifted in his seat. Nate forced a smile, but his fingers twitched on the tabletop. You're not on the board, he said. Didn't say I was. I stood, straightened my jacket, and placed my badge on the table. But I'll be in the room. He opened his mouth, but I didn't wait for whatever BS he was about to spit. I turned and walked out. Didn't cry, didn't look back. When I hit the lobby, security was already waiting. Derek. Guy. I'd hired back when he was fresh out of night school. I'd coached him through his interview, recommended him for shift lead last year. Good man. He held the door for me, eyes wide. This is bull, he said. You deserve better. I paused, looked him straight in the eye. I'll settle for justice. Then I stepped outside into the cold November air, wind cutting sharp across my face, and headed to my truck. My hands didn't shake. My jaw didn't clench. I just drove. Because they thought they'd ended something. They had no idea what they'd just started. I drove straight to the lake house. Didn't call ahead. Didn't stop for food. Just 4 hours of silence and headlights on blacktop. When I got there, I didn't turn on the lights. Walked through the side door, boots tracking dried leaves across the tile, straight to the back closet. Top shelf, under an old toolbox and a stack of faded manuals. There it was. Black lockbox, heavier than it looked. Combination still burned into muscle memory. I set it on the kitchen table and popped it open. 6 folders. Physical. Thick. Labeled by hand in red Sharpie like I used to do, back before the company had a filing system worth a damn. Voting rights, legacy clause, board coalition, bylaws, succession triggers, equity holdings breakdown, governance training certs, CEO oversight protocols. The clause Nate hadn't bothered to read, it was real, tucked deep in the founding documents from 12 years ago, when I'd chosen equity over cash. Back then, they were desperate to keep senior talent, offered shares like candy. Most of the VPs cashed out the second the stock jumped. I didn't. I held, quietly, because I wasn't chasing a payout. I was building something that lasted, and that clause, buried under 3 pages of legal padding, granted proxy voting power to any legacy equity holder in the event of executive governance failure. Guess who still held that equity? Me. And I wasn't alone. I had mentored 2 of the original advisory board members back when they were still running regional branches, helped them restructure their orgs, navigate M&As, build out succession ladders. They'd never forgotten. Between the 3 of us, we controlled 52% of the current board vote. Nate thought he was cutting a relic. He was actually trimming the brake lines on a moving truck. Every expense he flagged as vanity. I pulled the receipts, certified governance training, legal compliance modules, executive leadership coaching, fully approved, all tied to company succession protocols. And the best part? Last year, when Gavin started preaching disruption, I helped draft a structural bylaw update, titled it Redundancy Mitigation Plan, so no one would look too close. Inside, a full CEO oversight revision, clear language, trigger clause, activation condition, leadership misalignment impacting structural governance. They didn't even read it, just saw a safety net and signed it during budget approvals. I spread the folders across the table, took a breath, and started organizing. 1 for legal, 1 for the chair, 1 for my allies, 2 for the auditors. 1 for the record. This wasn't a comeback. This was a correction. They stripped my title. I still had the power. Monday, 9 a.m., I stepped into the boardroom. Board access doesn't require a badge. Nate was mid-sentence, pointer in hand, some nonsense slide about market-facing frameworks glowing behind him. He froze when he saw me walk in. The board chair, Arthur, didn't blink. Before we begin, there's a procedural matter, he said calmly. I took my seat, placed the folio on the polished wood, and opened it. As an equity holder and governance co-signer, I said, loud enough for the whole room to stop breathing, I'd like to motion a formal review of Q2 through Q3 restructuring decisions and financial movements outside board authorization. Nate chuckled, nervous, tapped his clicker twice. We're not entertaining rants today, Mark. You're not on the board. He looked to legal, expecting backup. Bridget, company counsel, didn't flinch. Motion is valid under Clause 7C, subsection 2. Proxy status confirmed. She turned to the chair. Board must vote to hear evidence. Arthur nodded. All in favor? 7 hands went up. Nate dropped his clicker on the table, leaned back, and crossed his arms. Fine, you've got the floor. Entertain us. I didn't smile. I laid out the first set of documents, clean, stapled, labeled in red tabs. Exhibit A, Q2 payments to North Beacon Consulting. Vendor record shows no prior engagement, no deliverables, just a $48,000 wire transfer. Arthur leaned in. That doesn't match any approved spend. I flipped the next page. Owner of North Beacon, Kyle Delaney, Nate's college roommate, also appears in overlapping contracts for Beacon Strat Group. Exhibit B, $62,000, Q3. Nate's mouth tightened. I laid down the next set. Exhibit C, strategy docs presented under Nate's leadership. 70% lifted word for word from McKinsey's 2019 public white papers. Uncited. I kept going. Exhibit D through F, my own flagged expenses, every dollar accounted for, board approved, certified training, leadership coaching, executive development, ROI documents included, outcomes tracked. Petra, VP of Ops, looked up sharply. Wait, the certification Nate flagged was for succession planning, right? That came through my office. It did, I said, sliding the signed approval form across the table. Her initials were right there. Nate pushed his chair back. This is petty. You're emotional, you're not strategic, you're clinging to a past that's already moved on. Arthur looked at him. Are you denying the vendor conflicts? Nate paused, just a second too long. They were vetted. By who? Petra asked. Silence. CFO Chris cleared his throat. I'd like to motion for a no confidence vote. Arthur looked around. Second? Second, Bridget said immediately. Arthur raised his hand. All in favor? I didn't vote. I didn't have to. Every other hand went up. Petra hesitated, then raised hers. Chris raised his last. Arthur turned to Nate. Motion carries. Effective immediately, you are dismissed as Chief Strategic Officer. You will vacate company property by end of day. Nate stood, eyes darting around like he was trying to find a crack in the floor to fall through. No one spoke. No one moved. No one gave him a lifeline. He opened his mouth, closed it, then grabbed his laptop and walked out without a word. I closed my folio, didn't gloat, didn't nod. I just stood and waited for the next move. Because this wasn't the end. It was the clearing. After he left, no one said a word. No clapping, no looks exchanged. Just the sound of the door hissing shut behind Nate like the room itself was done with him. Arthur cleared his throat. Per policy, we appoint interim leadership within 48 hours. Bridget spoke next, calm and deliberate. We need someone who's already navigated compliance, governance, and structural repair. Someone proven. Chris nodded, pushing his glasses up. Someone who knows the whole machine and already cleaned it once. That's when Arthur turned to me. Mark, you willing to serve as interim CEO? I didn't rush to answer. Not for effect. I just let the moment breathe. Let myself feel it. The difference between being tolerated and being trusted. I looked him in the eye. Yes. One word. That was all it took. The room stayed still for a few beats. No one rushed to fill it. They didn't need to. I picked up my folio, gave a simple nod, and left the room. Walked down the hall, past the alignment zones, past the breakout booths, past the door where my name had been erased. Got to the corner office, my office. Opened the door. Felt the weight shift the second I stepped in. Sat down behind the desk. Top drawer, right side, still there. Red folder, labeled Phase 2. I slid it out. Placed it on the desk in front of me. This wasn't revenge. That would have been easy. This was reclamation. I didn't come back to beat Nate. I came back to fix what mattered. People, purpose, foundation. Power's not noise. It's presence. And I was exactly where I belonged. Again. What would you have done if you were in Mark's shoes? Drop your answer in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories.